Good evening and welcome to NTV's Grow, coming to you this week from the Chianina-Maine Junior Nationals here at the State Fairgrounds in Grand Island. More on that later in the show. Plus, from Ogallala to Brazil, ranchers across the world face many of the same challenges when it comes to water. But we start with headlines, and that includes the U.S. House, which has rejected a new farm bill. Thursday afternoon, the House rejected the $500 billion farm bill. The bill would have cut $2 billion annually from food stamps and let states impose broad new work requirements on those who receive them. Members of both parties had signaled opposition to the food stamp cuts in the bill. Republicans said the cuts weren't enough, and Democrats opposed any cuts at all. We will hear from Congressman Adrian Smith later in the program. Crops took a beating during storms that hit Phelps County last week. Farmers think they may have lost a few plants and say it's too late to try to replant corn, but a later fungicide could help the plants pull through the damage. Phelps County Emergency Manager Pat Gertis says there's still a lot of cleanup ahead.
With the big rainfall, we ended up with some flooding in several fields as well. So, yeah, the corn and the beans both took a pretty good beating last night out there.
Despite recent thunderstorms and rain, drought remains unchanged across most of central and western Nebraska. An animal rights group is taking its fight here to the Nebraska State Fair. PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, has applied for a booth at this year's fair. A PETA campaign manager says the group's trips to state fairs in other states last year marks a new strategy to try to guide consumers away from meat. PETA's application is far from unexpected. NTV's Grow talked with fair managers from across the country this winter who are ready to respond to groups like this.
And they're money machines for the people that run those organizations, and they really do very little from the standpoint of improving the environment for animal agriculture. It's still us that are the caretakers and the raisers of livestock that do the best job of maintaining a good environment for our livestock.
Nebraska State Fair Executive Director Joseph McDermott says PETA has a First Amendment right to come to the fair to spread its message. However, courts have ruled fairs can shield people from displays like theirs. The high price of land is a huge barrier for those trying to get a start in agriculture, and that's why, despite our large increase in Latino population here in Nebraska, experts say many Latinos have left the farm. NTV's Natalie Tavidian has more.
The Center for Rural Affairs is reaching out to Hispanic and Latino farmers. They're saying despite the boom in population of Latinos in the state, a large number have fled the agriculture sector. The center is working to help integrate the new generation of Latinos into the farm and ranch sector as stakeholders. And as part of their Beginning Latino Farmer program, they're hosting farm tours, and many farmers are saying they're glad to help others learn from their own struggles.
That's probably one of the biggest hurdles right now, is that a lot of the laws and a lot of the policies are focused on the larger farmer, and so it's good to have a support network that can help you, figure out what kind of permits that you need and what kinds of regulations there are for the products that you're trying to sell.
Agriculture is a global business. From Latin America to places like Ogallala, Nebraska, water is a precious resource. And according to the University of Nebraska, we need to double food production in the next 35 years using less water. Here's more.
I love the decision I made when I moved from the city to work at the ranch.
And what's not to love, as Antonio Fajeda tends to cattle on horseback as they graze in Brazil's tropical pastures. But it's not all picture perfect, as cattlemen face demands to use less water.
There's a lot of finger pointing and pressure from natural resources.
Nebraska cattleman and state senator Ken Shills can relate as the unicameral launches a water task force.
We have to learn how to work together to get where we need to be, and not build these silos and try to just protect ourselves or our own interests.
Fajeda and Shills came together at the Water for Food conference this spring. The University of Nebraska says we have to double global food production by 2050 while using less water.
We can't do things like our grandparents used to do. Things change.
Antonio manages 2 ranches with about 2,000 cattle, and while feedlots could allow him to raise more and add weight, Brazil has been hesitant.
Thankfully, we're still not in that area.
That aspect may differ, but environmental pressures mount, some say made worse by climate change. Senator Schill says global warming is debatable, but agrees livestock producers must do better.
The agriculture producers are the stewards of the land.
They can't do it alone.
We are going to need help from the city in order for everybody not to get hit with this issue.
Want to see more of Antonio's ranch? We will feature photos later in the program. Brazil is also home to meatpacking giant JBS Swift with a large plant here in Grand Island. And many say agriculture would suffer without immigration. Now that the U.S. Senate has passed the Farm Bill, they've moved on to immigration, which definitely has a huge impact on agriculture, including pork producers like these.
I think immigration is a really hot topic right now. We e-verify all of our teams because they do have to have legal status to work in the United States. But there is no doubt that nationwide there is a problem with immigration reform, and obviously it's something that definitely we believe needs to probably be looked at.
Nebraska cattlemen have taken a position in support of immigration reform. They favor a guest worker program and efforts to give preference to immigrants with agricultural skills. That brings us to this week's poll question. Which of these issues is most important to address in terms of immigration reform? Giving preference to immigrants with ag skills, border security, or stronger penalties for those who hire unauthorized workers. Log in and vote on the Grow page at nebraska.tv, and we'll share results next week. 150 high school rodeo athletes competed in Hastings this weekend for a chance to make it to nationals. Events took place at the Adams County Fairgrounds with athletes participating in 12 different events. This group full of very talented kids.
This is the cream of the crop here. This is the best asset our state has, is our youth. And these kids, these 150 kids come to Hastings. They're mature, they're responsible, they're self-disciplined because they have an animal to take care of and they've got to practice on their own. I love seeing these kids and their energy and their excitement. Really makes putting on this event a lot of fun.
It's awesome. I mean, if you haven't come out and watched, I suggest you do, because just to see all the talent that's out here and just how nice everyone is, it's just great to see.
The top 4 competitors in each category earn a trip to the big stage at Nationals in Wyoming. Later in the show, we'll tell you how the West was won as cattle families from across the country come to Central Nebraska for a big show. Stay with us.
This is Bailey Heinrichs